My brother smacked my daughter in front of everyone, saying, like mother, like daughter, both worthless. My brother slapped my 6-year-old daughter, Lily, right in front of everyone. Like mother, like daughter, he sneered. Both of you are useless. My dad just smirked. She needed to learn some shame. My mom laughed along with him. What they didn't know was that the microphone was on, recording every single word. I'm Audrey. I'm 30 years old, and nothing could have prepared me for watching my family's cruelty unfold like that. But what happened next turned my brother's life into a living hell. Before I get into that, let me ask you, where are you watching from? And please subscribe if you believe every child deserves protection, even from their own family. Growing up in the Thompson household, I learned my place early on. I was the scapegoat, the one who could never do anything right. Meanwhile, my brother, Derek, was the golden child who could do no wrong. Our family dynamic was set in stone long before I had the words to describe it. My father, Howard, a successful corporate attorney, had high expectations. Derek met them perfectly. He was athletic, smart, and, most importantly, he mirrored my father's aggressive personality. I, on the other hand, was more like my mother, Eleanor, in looks, but not in personality. While she was happy to enforce my father's rules, I questioned everything. That made me the family troublemaker. Audrey just doesn't know how to behave, my mother would tell relatives at family gatherings, shaking her head with practiced disappointment. She's not like our Derek. By the time I was 16, I had built a protective shell around myself. I learned to be invisible at home, keeping my head down and counting the days until I could escape. When I met Jason during my first year of college, he felt like my ticket to freedom. He was kind, attentive, and he saw me, really saw me, in a way my family never had. We got married when I was 20. It was way too young, but I was desperate to have a family of my own. My parents came to our modest wedding with tight smiles and thinly veiled criticism about everything from my dress to the food. Derek, already a rising star at his company, brought a lavish gift. His speech sounded supportive, but it was laced with condescension. I never thought my little sister would find someone willing to take her on, he joked to uncomfortable laughter. Good luck, Jason. You'll need it. For a while, I thought I had finally escaped. We settled into a small apartment. I finished my degree in communications and worked part-time. We weren't rich, but we were happy. When I got pregnant with Lily at 24, it felt like my life was finally falling into place. Lily arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning. 7 pounds, 3 ounces of pure joy, with her father's blue eyes and my dark hair. Holding her in my arms, I made a silent promise. She would always know she was loved exactly as she was. She would never question her worth the way I had been forced to question mine. The first cracks in my marriage appeared when Lily was 3. Jason started working late and became distant. Then I found text messages from someone named Kara on his phone. When I confronted him, he denied it at first, then admitted to a 6-month affair with a coworker. We tried counseling, but his heart wasn't in it. By the time Lily turned 4, we were divorced that I didn't tell my family about the affair. I just said we'd grown apart, knowing they'd find a way to twist Jason's infidelity into my failure. My mother proved me right. Men don't leave happy homes, Audrey, she said over the phone. What did you do to push him away? Life as a single mom brought financial hurdles I hadn't expected. My job as an administrative assistant at Madison Marketing barely covered our rent and childcare. Sometimes, I had to swallow my pride and ask my parents for help with unexpected bills, a car repair, a medical visit, or school supplies for Lily. Each time, the money came with a lecture about responsibility and my poor life choices. Meanwhile, my brother Derek's life seemed perfect from the outside. He became the youngest vice president at his financial firm and married Natalie, a pediatrician from a wealthy family. They lived in a huge suburban house, focused on their careers first. My parents constantly held them up as the example of success I should have been. If only you had applied yourself like your brother, my father would say every time I visited. You could have something to show for yourself. Despite everything, I wanted Lily to know her grandparents and her uncle. Children desire family, even if I had to act as a buffer between them and the toxicity I grew up with. So when the annual family reunion at my parents' lake house came up this summer, I decided to go for the first time in 3 years. You're sure about this? My friend Tara asked when I told her. They've never had your back. They are still family, I replied, though my gut twisted at the thought. And Lily loves the lake. I can handle a weekend for her sake. Lily was thrilled. At 6, she was a ball of energy and curiosity, with a passion for singing that filled our small apartment. She had my stubbornness but a confidence I envied, unafraid to take up space in a way I never was. Will Uncle Derek be there? And Grandma and Grandpa? She asked as we packed. And can I swim in the lake every day? Yes to all of it, I promised, ignoring the anxiety building in my chest. Your cousins are coming, too. I didn't mention that my uncle, Paul, would be filming the whole reunion for a family documentary. My father had been insistent on documenting the Thompson family legacy, especially Derek's achievements. As we drove toward the lake house, I repeated calming mantras to myself. It's just 3 days. I can handle anything for 3 days. I'm not that scared little girl anymore. I'll protect Lily from experiencing what I did. Looking back, I realize I was trying to convince myself of something impossible. You can't protect someone from toxic dynamics while putting them right in the middle of them. Some lessons are learned the hardest way. The Thompson family lake house stood like a monument to old money, with its weathered cedar exterior and huge deck overlooking Lake Michigan. As I pulled our modest sedan into the circular driveway behind Derek's shiny BMW and my parents' Mercedes, I felt that familiar shrinking sensation I always get around my family. We're here! Lily exclaimed, unbuckling her seat belt. Her excitement was pure and innocent, unaware of the undercurrents that made my shoulders tense. Can I go see the lake right now? Let's get settled first, I said, forcing a smile, and say hello to everyone. The front door opened as we walked up, revealing my mother in pressed linen pants and a cashmere sweater despite the summer heat. Her highlighted hair was perfect, not a single strand out of place. There you are, she said, her eyes judging me before settling on Lily with more warmth. We were starting to think you'd changed your mind. Traffic was heavy, I explained, accepting her stiff hug. It's good to see you, Mom. Inside, the great room buzzed with relatives. My father stood by the fireplace, deep in conversation with my Uncle Robert. He glanced up, giving me a quick nod without interrupting his discussion about stock options. Derek and Natalie emerged from the kitchen, his arm draped possessively around her. My brother had our father's build, tall and broad, but his features were sharper, more calculating. His smile never quite reached his eyes. Well, the prodigal sister returns, he announced loudly for everyone to hear. And with little Miss Lily. You've grown since I last saw you, kiddo. Lily, suddenly shy, pressed against my leg. Hello, Uncle Derek. Natalie stepped forward with a genuine smile. Unlike the rest of the family, she had always been kind to me, though in a carefully distant way, as if she understood the family dynamic but wouldn't challenge it. It's lovely to see you both, she said, giving me a warm hug. Lily, your cousins are down by the dock if you want to join them after you get settled. Mom, can I go? Lily asked, bouncing with excitement. After we take our bags to our room, I promised. Derek sipped his bourbon, eyeing me over the rim of his glass. Still working at that little marketing place? What is it? Assistant to someone important. Administrative assistant, I corrected, refusing to take his bait. And yes, still there. I got a small promotion last month, actually. How nice for you, he replied with fake enthusiasm. I just closed a 7-figure deal with Anderson Tech. Dad, did I mention the bonus they're giving me? And just like that, The attention shifted away as my father clapped Derek on the shoulder. That's my boy, always aiming higher. My brother-in-law, Paul, was setting up his camera gear by the large bay windows. As I walked past, he gave me a sympathetic look. Paul married into the family but never fully adopted their values, making him an outsider, much like me, planning to get everyone's good side. I asked, trying to sound light. Your dad wants a lot of footage of Derek talking about his career, he replied quietly. I've got wireless mics set up around the main areas to capture natural conversations, too. Our assigned bedroom was the smallest in the house, tucked away in a corner with a view of the neighbor's yard instead of the lake. I helped Lily unpack, listening to her chatter about seeing her cousins, Derek's nieces and nephews. Can I wear my blue swimsuit? And can I show everyone my new song? I practiced all week. My heart tightened. Lily's uninhibited enthusiasm was something that had been crushed out of me at her age. Of course, you can sing, honey. Just remember that sometimes adults are talking, so find a good moment, okay? The first evening unfolded with the expected undercurrent of competition and comparison. My father dominated dinner with questions about Derek's latest achievements, while my mother commented on everything from my hair. Don't you think it's time for a more professional cut? To my parenting, Lily seems very energetic. Don't you think some structure would be good for her? I noticed how Lily's cousins, age 7 to 12, already mirrored the family hierarchy. They corrected her pronunciation, rolled their eyes when she spoke too loudly, and excluded her from their games with a practiced politeness that adults might miss, but children certainly feel. After dinner, while I was helping with the dishes, my Aunt Linda approached me. Audrey, Derek mentioned you've been struggling since the divorce. We have a position opening in our company's mailroom if you're interested. I appreciate that, I said carefully, but I'm actually up for another promotion at Madison. I'm heading a small project team now. She patted my arm with disbelief. Well, the offer stands. Sometimes we need to be realistic about our capabilities. Later, as I tucked Lily into bed, I found her unusually quiet. Everything okay, sweetie? She traced patterns on the quilt. Cousin Emma said my singing was annoying, and Uncle Derek told me girls shouldn't be so loud if they want people to like them. I swallowed hard, recognizing the familiar patterns repeating in a new generation. Lily, listen to me. Your voice is beautiful, and you have every right to be heard. Some people just don't know how to appreciate enthusiasm. I forced myself to breathe through the anger. Grandpa said you were too loud as a kid, too, and that's why you always got in trouble. Well, sometimes adults are wrong, even grandparents, especially your mom's parents. She giggled at that, and I kissed her forehead. Tomorrow will be better. We'll go swimming and have fun, just us. But as I lay awake in the unfamiliar bed, listening to the muffled laughter of my parents and brother still drinking downstairs, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had made a terrible mistake bringing Lily here. Some environments are toxic no matter how much time has passed, and the Thompson family lake house was proving to be exactly that. Morning arrived with brilliant sunshine streaming through the thin curtains of our room. Lily woke with her usual enthusiasm, the previous day's hurts forgotten in the promise of lake swimming and breakfast waffles. Mom, wake up. Uncle Paul said they are making a special breakfast in the big room. She bounced on the edge of my bed, already dressed in her favorite blue sundress with yellow butterflies. I checked my phone. 8:17 a.m. I'd hoped to sleep longer after a restless night, but Lily's excitement was contagious. Okay, I'm up. Let me get dressed, and we'll go down together. The big room was what my parents pretentiously called the Great Hall, a cavernous space with vaulted ceilings and a wall of windows overlooking the lake. It doubled as a dining room and gathering space, with excellent acoustics that amplified every sound. By the time Lily and I arrived, most of the family was already assembled. My father presided at the head of the massive oak table, newspaper in hand. My mother supervised the catering staff they'd hired for the weekend. Derek and Natalie sat with my father engaged in a serious conversation about property investments. "Good morning," I offered to the room, receiving distracted nods in return. "Audrey, coffee's on the sideboard," my mother said. "Lily, the children are eating at the small table by the window." I noticed Paul discreetly adjusting microphones, preparing for another day of documentary filming. He gave me a small wave as I poured coffee, getting all the family drama on tape. I asked quietly, "Your dad wants authentic family interactions," he replied with a meaningful look. "For posterity." Breakfast proceeded without incident at first. Lily joined her cousins, trying to enter their conversations while being subtly excluded. I sat with my Aunt Linda and her husband, making polite small talk. About 30 minutes in, the children finished eating and moved to the play area. The adults remained at the table, conversation growing louder as mimosas were refilled. I kept one eye on Lily, who had begun to sing softly to herself while coloring. Gradually, her singing grew more confident, a song from her favorite cartoon about friendship and adventures. Her sweet voice carried in the room, occasionally rising above the adult conversation. I noticed Derek's jaw tightening each time Lily hit a high note. He shot several pointed looks my way, which I pretended not to see. My nieces and nephews had abandoned Lily to play a board game, excluding her with practiced casualness. "Audrey," my mother called from across the table, "don't you think Lily is being a bit disruptive?" Before I could answer, Lily's voice soared into the chorus of her song, completely unaware of the tension. "For God's sake," Derek muttered loud enough for nearby conversations to pause. "Can't you control your child for 5 minutes?" I began to stand, intending to ask Lily to lower her volume, when everything happened at once. Derek pushed back from the table abruptly, his chair scraping loudly. He strode toward the children's area. I moved to intercept him, but my aunt asked me a question that delayed me by mere seconds. Seconds that changed everything. Derek reached Lily, who looked up at her uncle with an innocent smile that quickly transformed into shock as his hand connected with her cheek in a slap that echoed through the suddenly silent room. Time seemed to freeze. Lily's small body rocked backward from the force. Her coloring book fell to the floor. The red imprint of Derek's hand bloomed on her pale cheek. "Like mother, like daughter, both are useless," Derek said loudly, looking around the room as if expecting approval. "Can't even behave properly in public." My father's voice cut through my stunned paralysis. Well, she needed to learn some shame. Girls these days aren't taught proper manners. My mother's tinkling laugh followed. Audrey never did understand the value of a quiet presence. I finally unfroze, rushing to Lily, who had begun to sob, her small body shaking with shock, pain, and humiliation. As I gathered her into my arms, the enormity of what had just happened crashed over me. "What is wrong with you?" I hissed at Derek, who stood watching with his arms crossed. "She's 6 years old. She's old enough to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her noise," he replied coldly. "Maybe if someone had taught you that lesson, you wouldn't be a divorced secretary raising a brat alone." "Administrative assistant," I corrected automatically, my voice shaking with rage and shock. "And she's not a brat. She's a child who is singing." My father folded his newspaper precisely. "Audrey, you're overreacting, as usual. A little discipline never hurt anyone. Look how well Derek turned out compared to how you've coddled that girl." The room had divided into distinct camps, those openly agreeing with Derek, those uncomfortable but silent, and Paul, who stood very still by his equipment, his face pale. The documentary microphones were on, recording everything. Through my fury and my daughter's tears, I realized we had irrefutable evidence. Derek must have realized it, too, because his eyes darted to Paul and the equipment. "You know what?" I said, standing with Lily in my arms, her face buried against my shoulder. "We done here. Nobody touches my daughter. Nobody." "Oh, stop with the dramatics," my mother said dismissively. "It was hardly a tap. You're embarrassing yourself." "I'm embarrassing myself." I laughed incredulously. My brother just assaulted a 6-year-old for singing, and I'm the embarrassment. Derek stepped toward me menacingly. Watch your mouth, Audrey. It was discipline, not assault. Something you clearly know nothing about. I backed away, holding Lily tighter. Stay away from us. We're leaving. Running away again. Derek called after me as I headed for the stairs. That's all you've ever been good at. I didn't respond, focusing on getting Lily somewhere safe. As we reached our room, I could hear the murmur of conversation resuming below. My family was already moving on from what they considered a minor incident rather than the unforgivable act it was. What they didn't know is that everything had changed. The rules of engagement had shifted permanently. My brother had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. And thanks to my father's obsession with documenting the family legacy, I had proof that I am now a small bedroom. I gently set Lily on the bed. Her crying had slowed to hiccuping sobs, but the bright red handprint on her cheek stood out sharply against her pale skin. I grabbed a washcloth from the bathroom, ran it under cold water, and carefully pressed it to her face. It hurts, Mommy, she whimpered. Why did Uncle Derek hit me? Was I bad? The question shattered me. No, baby, you weren't bad. Not at all. Uncle Derek was completely wrong to hit you. And Grandpa was wrong, too, I said firmly, pulling her close. No one should ever hit you, especially not for singing. Your voice is beautiful. As Lily began to calm down, my hand shook as I started packing our bags. We had to leave now. If we stayed, I knew my family would gaslight us, downplaying what happened until Lily herself started to doubt her own memories and feelings. A soft knock on the door made me tense. Who is it? I called out, putting myself between the door and Lily. It's Paul, came the quiet reply. Can I talk to you for a minute alone? I hesitated, then opened the door crack. Now isn't a good time. Paul's face was lined with concern. I know. Listen, I recorded everything. The slap, what Derek said, your dad's comments, all of it. He lowered his voice. I can make you a copy before they realize and make me delete it. A cold clarity washed over me. You do that? He nodded. What Derek did was assault, plain and simple. And the others? He shook his head in disgust. I'm married into this family, but I've never seen anything like that. Linda doesn't know I'm talking to you. Thank you, I whispered. We're leaving as soon as I finish packing. Meet me by my car in 20 minutes. I'll download a copy to a USB drive for you. After he left, I called Tara. She picked up on the second ring. How's the family reunion from hell? She asked cheerfully. Derek hit Lily, I said, my voice cracking. Slapped her across the face for singing too loudly. And my parents laughed. He what? Tara's outrage exploded through the phone. Tell me you're leaving right now. Packing as we speak. Come straight to my house, she insisted. Don't go home in case they try to follow you. By the time I hung up, Lily had fallen asleep, exhausted from crying. I finished packing quickly, then gently woke her. We're going to visit Aunt Tara, I explained, using her honorary title. We need to leave quietly. Okay, she nodded, still subdued in a way that broke my heart. As we made our way downstairs with our bags, my mother blocked our path in the foyer. Where do you think you're going? She demanded. Home, I replied flatly. Or did you think we'd stay after Derek assaulted my daughter? Don't be ridiculous. It was hardly a tap. You're overreacting, as usual. A tap doesn't leave a handprint, I said, shifting so she could see Lily's face, where the mark was still visible despite the cold compress. For a second, a hint of doubt flickered in my mother's eyes, but she quickly recovered. Children bruise easily. You're making a scene over nothing. Nothing. I laughed bitterly. Would it be nothing if someone slapped you for talking at breakfast, or if I slapped Derek for being condescending? That's different, she insisted. Adults don't need discipline. Neither do children, I countered. They need guidance and respect, not violence. My father appeared behind her. Audrey, you're being hysterical. Sit down, have a drink, and we can discuss this rationally. There's nothing to discuss, I said, moving toward the door. We're leaving. If you walk out that door, my father warned, don't expect any more financial help. No more bailing you out when you can't make rent. The threat hung in the air, a reminder of my fragile financial situation and dependence on their occasional assistance. In the past, it might have worked. Not today. Keep your money, I said calmly. It's not worth this. As I led Lily toward the door, Derek appeared from the living room, a glass of whiskey in hand despite the early hour. Running away again, little sister? Can't face the consequences of your poor parenting. I stopped, looking him directly in the eyes. The only consequence I'm avoiding is allowing my daughter to think it's normal for men to hit children. Enjoy your perfect life, Derek. I hope it was worth showing everyone who you really are. His face darkened. Is that a threat? No, I replied, opening the front door. Just an observation. As promised, Paul was waiting by his car in the side driveway, partially hidden by a stand of pines. He pressed a small USB drive into my hand. The audio is crystal clear, he said quietly. Derek's slap, his comment about you both being useless, your dad saying she needed to learn shame, your mom laughing. It's all there. I'd be careful how you use it, though. They'll know it came from me. Thank you, I whispered. I won't implicate you unless I absolutely have to. The drive to Tara's apartment was silent. Lily dozed in her booster seat while I processed what had happened and what to do next. By the time we arrived, a plan was starting to form in my mind. Tara met us at the door, pulling first Lily and then me into fierce hugs. I made up the guest room for you both, she said. Stay as long as you need. That evening, after Lily was asleep in the unfamiliar bed, Tara and I sat at her kitchen table with the USB drive and her laptop. Are you sure you want to hear this again? She asked as I inserted the drive. I need to know exactly what was said, I replied. And I need a witness who isn't family. The recording was worse than I remembered. The casual cruelty in Derek's voice as he called us useless. The audible smirk in my father's comment about shame. My mother's tinkling laugh. All of it painted a picture of people who saw nothing wrong with hitting a child. Jesus, Tara whispered when it finished playing. I knew your family was toxic, but this... I know, I said, my resolve hardening. The question is, what do I do about it? You could go to the police, she suggested. That's assault on a minor, plain and simple. I could, I agreed. But you know how these things work. It would be my word against theirs without this recording, which might not even be admissible. And they'd paint me as the unstable single mother trying to extort money from successful relatives. So what then? Let them get away with it. I shook my head slowly. No. Derek crossed a line today, and there have to be consequences. Real ones. Over the next few days, while Lily and I adjusted to temporary life at Tara's, I began researching. First, I took Lily to her pediatrician, Dr. Winters, who documented the fading bruise and referred us to a child psychologist. She's experiencing some trauma responses, Dr. Winters explained gently. Nightmares, clinginess, fear of male authority figures. The psychologist will help her process what happened. Next, I consulted Lisa, a lawyer friend from college, bringing the audio recording with me. This is pretty damning, she said after listening. In terms of criminal charges, it could go either way. A good lawyer would argue it was a one-time disciplinary action, not abuse, but civil action? That's another story. I'm not interested in suing my brother for money, I clarified. I understand, Lisa nodded. But you should know your options, and you should know that this recording would be extremely damaging to someone with a public reputation to protect. That comment sparked an idea. Derek's position at Meridian Financial came with a strict morality clause, something he had bragged about at previous family gatherings, explaining how executives were held to high ethical standards because they handled sensitive client information. What if the goal isn't a lawsuit? I asked slowly. What if it's accountability? That night, I began researching Derek's professional life more thoroughly. His company bio touted his community involvement, including serving on the board of a children's charity and mentoring youth in business programs. The irony was almost too perfect. I created a detailed plan, weighing each potential action against both its effectiveness and its consequences for Lily. This wasn't about revenge. It was about protection and justice. It was about making sure Derek understood that actions have consequences, especially when those actions hurt a child. The decisive moment came 3 days after we'd left the lake house when Lily woke up screaming from a nightmare. Uncle Derek was chasing me, she sobbed into my shoulder. He wanted to hit me again because I was singing. As I held my daughter, soothing her back to sleep with promises of safety, my decision became clear. Derek had robbed Lily of her sense of security and her joy in singing, the very thing that had brought her such happiness. He had made her feel ashamed of her voice, just as my parents had done to me throughout my childhood. The cycle needed to end, not just for Lily, but for any other child who might experience Derek's discipline in the future. The next morning, I set my plan in motion. My first step was gathering evidence. I set up an appointment with Dr. Melissa Garner, the child psychologist Dr. Winters had suggested. She specialized in childhood trauma and had experience testifying in abuse cases. After her first session with my daughter, Dr. Garner explained, Lily is showing classic signs of an acute stress response. She has anxiety around male authoritative figures, trouble sleeping, and she's avoiding things she used to love, especially singing. Will she be okay? I asked, a wave of worry washing over me. Children are incredibly resilient with the right support, she reassured me. But what happened to her was significant trauma, not a minor discipline issue as your family seems to think. Dr. Garner wanted to see Lily weekly for a while. She provided a written assessment of Lily's symptoms, which became the first document in my file. Next, I got the police report. The officer who took my statement, Officer Jenkins, was sympathetic but realistic. Without visible injuries or independent witnesses, this would be tough to pursue, she explained. Family discipline is a legal gray area. But, she said, after listening to the recording, the audio changes everything. This report establishes a formal record of the incident, which could be important later. My phone was buzzing with messages from my family. My mother's texts ranged from guilt-tripping, "You're breaking your father's heart with this drama," to minimizing, "It was just a little slap, for heaven's sake." Derek's messages went from dismissive, "Get over yourself," to outright threats, "You'll regret making a big deal out of this." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I carefully edited the audio clip. It wasn't manipulated, just trimmed to include the key moments, the unmistakable sound of Derek's slap, his cruel comment, my father's words about Lily needing to learn some shame, and my mother's laugh. Without any added commentary, I let their actions speak for themselves. I took a deep breath and sent the clip, along with a factual, unemotional account of what happened, to 3 strategic people. First, to the board of directors at Meridian Financial, where Derek was a vice president. Second, to the leadership of the Children's Future Foundation, where he served on the board. And third, to the organizers of the Westlake Business Leaders Mentorship Program, where he worked with high school students. Each message was professional and understated. I explained that I felt ethically obligated to share this information due to Derek's positions of influence with children and in the community, and requested confidentiality to protect my daughter's privacy. "Are you sure about this?" my friend Tara asked as I prepared to send the final email. "There's no going back." "I'm sure," I replied, thinking of Lily's tearful question. Was I bad? No child should ever feel that way because of an adult's anger. Derek made his choice when he hit a 6-year-old for singing. These are just the consequences. Within hours, My phone exploded. Derek had found out. I suspect one of the board members called him immediately. His messages turned from threatening to panicked. "What have you done?" he wrote. "The board called an emergency meeting. They are talking about suspending me. You need to tell them this is a family misunderstanding right now." My parents joined in. My father's message was coldly furious. "You've betrayed this family for attention." My mother's became increasingly desperate. "Please call us. We can fix this together." I blocked them all. That evening, Paul called. "Derek is losing his mind at your parents' house," he said quietly. "They know I recorded everything, but they don't know I gave you a copy. He's threatening to sue you for defamation." "Let him try," I replied calmly. "Truth is an absolute defense. All I did was share his actual words and actions with people who should know about them." "Your parents are saying you're unstable and have always been jealous of Derek," Paul continued. "They are trying to convince everyone this is about the divorce and money." I laughed without humor. "Of course they are. It's easier than admitting their golden child hit a kindergartner for singing too loudly." The next morning, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Natalie, Derek's wife. Her voice was strained. "Can we meet somewhere private?" We met at a coffee shop. Natalie, usually so polished, looked exhausted with dark circles under her eyes. "I heard the recording," she said, sliding into the booth. "Paul played it for Linda, and she called me." I waited, unsure where this was going. "I need to know," she hesitated. "Was this the first time Derek has done something like this?" "To Lily? Yes," I confirmed. "But his temper has always been there, just usually directed at me." She nodded slowly. "He has a temper at home, too. Never physical before. But the way he spoke to Lily, the things he said about you both being useless. I've heard that tone before, directed at me." Something shifted in my understanding. "Natalie, are you okay?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know anymore. When all this started happening with his job, he threw a glass across the kitchen. He said it was my fault for not defending him to my father, who's friends with one of the Meridian directors." I reached across and squeezed her hand. "I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." "You didn't," she said firmly. "Derek did this. Maybe I needed to see who he really is." She straightened her shoulders. "I told him I'm staying with my sister for a while. He needs to get help for his anger." As we left, a text came from Grace, my supervisor. "Just got a strange call from someone named Derek Thompson asking questions about your employment. Said he was a reference. I didn't share anything. Is everything okay?" My brother was clearly trying to find ammunition against me. I briefly explained the situation to Grace and sent her the audio clip. Her response was immediate and supportive. "That's horrific. Take whatever time you need for your daughter. Your job is secure. If they contact anyone here again, we'll handle it." The professional consequences for Derek came quickly. Meridian Financial placed him on administrative leave pending an investigation. The children's charity removed him from their board immediately, citing a zero-tolerance policy. The mentorship program paused his involvement. The community response was also swift. Parents from Lily's school, neighbors, and acquaintances reached out with support. Many shared their own stories of abuse disguised as discipline. A small community of survivors formed around us, offering practical and emotional help. Derek tried to control the narrative, claiming I had manipulated the recording and was using Lily as a pawn for money. But few believed him once they heard the unedited audio. My phone rang again. It was my brother-in-law, Paul. "I just wanted you to know," he said quietly. "Several other family members have approached me privately. They've seen Derek being aggressive with his nieces and nephews before. They were afraid to speak up, but they are supporting you now." The revelation that Derek's behavior had affected other children strengthened my resolve. This wasn't just about Lily, it was about stopping a pattern of abuse. As the consequences became public, Derek's calls grew more desperate. He alternated between rage and manipulation, threats and pleas for loyalty. I remained silent, focusing on Lily's healing. The truth was out, documented and undeniable. What happened next was up to Derek and my parents. By the third week, the fallout was everywhere. Meridian Financial's investigation ended with his demotion to a non-client-facing role, a huge step down. The children's charity permanently removed him. Most painfully for his ego, the story had spread through his social circle, leading to cancelled invitations and uncomfortable questions. I learned most of this from Paul. "Your parents are in damage control mode," he told me. "They are telling everyone you're unstable and jealous of his success." "That's not surprising," I said, having expected this. "They've used that narrative my whole life." What I didn't expect was the family division. My mother's sister, Catherine, called me. "I saw Derek slap your little girl," she said, her voice tight with emotion. I was across the room and didn't intervene. I've been ashamed ever since. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Because your parents are asking the family to present a united front against you. I can't be part of that lie. What Derek did was wrong, and their reaction was even worse." Catherine wasn't alone. Other relatives began reaching out, some offering support, others simply confirming my story. The family was fracturing along moral lines, not blood ties. Meanwhile, Lily's progress with Dr. Garner was steady. Her nightmares were less frequent, though she still felt nervous around loud male voices. The most hopeful sign was that she had started singing again, softly at first, then with more confidence, especially after I consistently told her how beautiful her voice was. Weeks after the incident, my father's mother, our family matriarch, Martha, called a meeting. "This has gone on long enough," she announced. "I want to hear both sides and find a resolution." "There aren't two sides to hitting a child, Grandma," I shot back. "Perhaps not," she conceded, which surprised me. "But there needs to be a resolution. Sunday at 2. I expect you to be there." Dr. Garner's advice was clear. Do not bring Lily. This is adult business. She shouldn't be exposed to more conflict or forced to relive her trauma. So, I asked Tara to watch Lily while I went alone. Driving to my grandmother's Victorian home, my stomach was a knot of nerves. It was the first time I'd seen my parents or Derek since the lake house. How would they react now that their golden child was facing real consequences? The tension in the living room was suffocating. My parents sat stiffly on the couch, my mother's forced composure barely hiding her anger. Derek and Natalie sat apart. She was in a chair by the window, while he leaned against the mantelpiece, his eyes bloodshot. The usual family chatter was gone. My grandmother entered last, leaning on her cane but radiating authority. "I've lived long enough to see 5 generations of this family, and I've never been more disappointed than I am today," she said. "Mother, if you would just listen to our side," my father began. "Howard, I may be old, but I'm not senile," she cut him off. "Paul was good enough to share the recording with me. I heard exactly what happened." Silence fell. My grandmother turned to Derek. "You hit a 6-year-old for singing. Then you insulted her and her mother. Your behavior was inexcusable." Derek's face flushed. "It wasn't that hard a slap. Everyone is overreacting." "Be quiet," she snapped. "When a grown man hits a child, the force is irrelevant. It's the betrayal of trust, the abuse of power." She then turned to my parents. "And you too encouraged it, laughed at it, and dismissed it." My mother's composure crumbled. "Martha, you don't understand. Audrey has always been difficult, always exaggerating." "Eleanor, I raised your husband. I know exactly where Derek learned this behavior," my grandmother interrupted. Her gaze shifted to my father, whose face had gone pale. Howard was disciplined too harshly by his own father. I regret every day that I didn't stop it. I won't make that mistake again. A heavy silence filled the room. My father stayed at his hands. "Audrey," my grandmother continued, "you did what I should have done decades ago. You protected your child at great personal cost. For that, you have my respect." I was speechless, having never expected her to take my side. "That said," she continued, "this family is at a crossroads. Healing is possible, but only with accountability." Derek pushed away from the mantelpiece. "Accountability? I've been publicly humiliated, demoted at work, and kicked off a charity board. Isn't that enough punishment for one slap?" I finally found my voice. "This isn't about punishment, Derek. It's about owning what you did and its impact. Lily has nightmares." She stopped singing, the thing that brought her joy. She asked me if she was bad. My voice broke. A 6-year-old thought she deserved to be hit because the adult she trusted made her believe she was wrong for using her voice. "I didn't mean to," Derek started, then stopped, seemingly at a loss. "That's just it," I continued. "You didn't mean to traumatize her. You just meant to control her, to make her small and quiet, the way this family has always tried to control and diminish me. But intentions don't erase impact." My father stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. We've indulged this drama long enough." Derek made a mistake, but Audrey deliberately destroyed his reputation out of spite. "No, Howard," my grandmother said firmly. "Audrey showed people who Derek really is. He destroyed his own reputation through his actions." "I can't believe you taking her side," my mother exclaimed. "I'm taking the side of that child," my grandmother replied. "As should all of you." From there, the confrontation escalated. Years of resentment poured out. Aunt Catherine revealed she'd witnessed my father's harsh discipline of me as a child while Derek was treated with gentle guidance. Cousin Jennifer admitted Derek had once twisted her son's arm. Uncle Robert confessed to seeing Derek shove a business associate, but said nothing because that's just how men handle disagreements. A clear pattern of Derek's unchecked aggression and my parents' enabling emerged. With each revelation, Derek's face grew darker, and my parents' denials became less convincing. Then, Natalie spoke. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I'm filing for separation." The room fell silent. "What?" Derek turned to her, truly shocked. "This incident forced me to acknowledge things I've been ignoring for years," she continued. "The way you speak to me when you're angry, the things you throw, the fear I feel when I hear your car after you've been drinking." "I've never hit you," Derek protested. "No," she agreed. "But hearing how you spoke to Lily and Audrey, seeing how your parents minimized it, I suddenly understood where our relationship was heading." My mother made a last attempt to salvage things. "Natalie, every marriage has rough patches. You can't throw away years over one incident." "It's not one incident," Natalie replied. "It's a pattern, and I won't wait until it escalates." The meeting lasted nearly 3 hours. By the end, the family was forever changed. Lines had been drawn based on values, not blood. Derek had lost far more than his job status. He'd lost the support system that had always protected him. My parents faced a choice: acknowledge their enabling or lose relationships with multiple family members, including their only granddaughter. As the meeting broke up, my grandmother took my hand. "It will take time," she said softly. "Change doesn't happen overnight, but it has started." In the weeks that followed, the consequences continued. Derek's company issued a statement about their commitment to ethics, implicitly distancing themselves from him. He was required to attend anger management to keep his job. Natalie moved out and officially filed for separation. Over coffee, she confessed she had miscarried twice, now wondering if the stress of walking on eggshells around Derek's temper had contributed. My parents made awkward attempts at reconciliation, clearly for damage control rather than genuine remorse. My mother called to invite us to dinner with no mention of what had happened. My father sent an email characterizing the whole situation as a misunderstanding. I maintained fine boundaries, making it clear that any relationship would require them to acknowledge the harm done to Lily and take concrete steps to ensure her safety. The most profound changes, however, happened within me. The woman who once accepted mistreatment now stood firmly in her power. The mother who brought her child into a toxic environment now knew that true family is defined by love and respect, not blood. 6 months later, I sat in Dr. Garner's office for an update on Lily. She's doing remarkably well, the psychologist shared. Children are resilient, especially with a secure attachment to a protective caregiver. You've done everything right, Audrey. I didn't protect her from the initial trauma, I pointed out, feeling the familiar guilt. But you responded perfectly afterward, Dr. Garner countered. You validated her feelings, removed her from danger, got her support, and held the perpetrator accountable. That's why she's healing. Driving home, I reflected on the unexpected gifts from this painful chapter. A stronger voice, healthier boundaries, the knowledge I could protect my daughter against powerful opposition, and authentic connections with family who shared my values. The path forward was still complicated, and healing would take time. But for the first time in my life, I was walking that path on my own terms, with my head held high and my daughter's hand in mine. 6 months after Derek slapped Lily at the lake house, our lives had changed in ways I never expected. Our small apartment, which used to represent my financial struggles after my divorce, had become a real safe haven filled with laughter and music. Lily's recovery continued to amaze me. Dr. Garner had cut our sessions back to once a month, impressed by Lily's resilience. She's singing again, I shared at our last appointment, my voice thick with emotion. Not just at home, but she joined the kids' choir at the community center. That's a huge step, the doctor smiled. It means she no longer connects her voice with punishment or shame. The incident had far-reaching consequences. Derek was required to take anger management classes as a condition of his employment. His once promising career was permanently sidetracked, and he now had a back-office job with minimal client interaction. His marriage didn't survive the fallout. Natalie filed for divorce 3 months after they separated, publicly citing irreconcilable differences. Privately, she told me the incident with Lily made her see the emotional abuse she had normalized in their relationship. I keep thinking about what would have happened if we'd had kids, she confided during one of our regular lunch meetings. Would I have recognized it then, or would I have enabled him the way your parents did? My relationship with my parents was still complicated. After their attempts to gloss over everything failed, they reluctantly agreed to family counseling. Our first session was tense. My dad tried to control the conversation, while my mom alternated between tears and passive-aggressive remarks about family loyalty. Reconciliation requires accountability, the family therapist stated firmly. And that starts with admitting the harm that was done. It took 3 sessions before my dad grudgingly admitted, I should have stopped Derek instead of encouraging him. What he did to Lily was wrong. My mom took longer to let go of her role as the family's peacemaker. I just wanted everyone to get along, she explained tearfully in our 5th session. I've always smoothed things over. That's what mothers do. No, I countered gently. Mothers protect their children, even when it's hard, even when it disrupts the peace. Our progress with my parents was slow but steady. They hadn't aimed unsupervised time with Lily yet, but we had a schedule of brief, structured visits in neutral places. During these meetings, I noticed small changes. My dad made an effort to connect with Lily on her terms, and my mom caught herself before making a critical comment. The family split that happened after the confrontation at my grandmother's house was painful at first, but ultimately healing. Relatives who had seen generations of toxic behavior finally spoke their minds, creating real connections based on shared values instead of just blood ties. My grandmother, at 87, became an unexpected supporter. I made mistakes with your father, she admitted during one of our weekly tea visits. I saw the signs but told myself that's just how men were back then. By the time I saw the damage, the patterns were already set. Her honesty helped me understand our family's dysfunction without excusing it, and it strengthened my resolve to ensure these patterns ended with me. My career also took a surprising turn. The confidence I gained from standing up for Lily carried over to my professional life. When a project management position opened at Madison Marketing, I applied, even though I didn't think I was qualified. To my surprise, I got the job. Your handling of the crisis with your daughter showed exceptional leadership, my boss, Grace, said during my promotion interview. You were strategic, communicated clearly under pressure, and showed remarkable integrity. Those are exactly the skills we need in this role. The higher salary meant we no longer needed financial help from my parents, removing the last bit of control they had over my life. Perhaps the most unexpected thing was a support group I joined for parents dealing with family trauma. Sharing my story encouraged others to do the same, creating a community of mutual support. With encouragement from the group's leader, I started speaking at local parenting workshops about spotting and dealing with family toxicity. Your story resonates because it's about more than one incident, the leader explained. It's about breaking generational patterns and choosing your child's well-being over family expectations. That's a struggle for many people. On a crisp autumn morning, exactly 7 months after the lake house incident, we had a small gathering at our apartment. Lily called it our chosen family celebration. Tara was there, along with Paul and his children. He and Linda had separated, another consequence of the family reckoning. Natalie came with her sister. A few colleagues from work joined us, as did several members of our support group. Most surprisingly, my grandmother arrived with a hesitant-looking Eleanor. My mom had asked to come, her first independent effort since everything happened. As everyone mingled, Lily tugged at my sleeve. "Mom, can I sing my song now?" she whispered. "Are you sure you want to?" I asked, knowing what this meant. She nodded firmly. "I've been practicing with Miss Joanna in the choir." I called for everyone's attention as Lily stood by the window, bathed in sunlight. The room fell silent as she began to sing. It wasn't the cartoon theme song that had triggered Derek's violence, but a simple children's ballad about courage and finding your voice. Her clear, sweet voice filled our home without apology or fear. Watching her stand tall, her eyes bright with confidence, tears welled up in my eyes. This was the true sign of our healing, not just surviving the trauma, but finding joy on the other side. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. My mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "She has a beautiful voice," she said quietly. "I should have said something that day." "Yes, you should have," I agreed. "But what matters now is what we all say and do going forward." That evening, after everyone had left and Lily was in bed, I sat on our small balcony watching the sunset. The past 7 months had been the most challenging and transformative of my life. I had lost some family connections but gained authentic ones. I had faced financial uncertainty but found professional growth. Most importantly, I had shown Lily that she was worth protecting at any cost. The journey wasn't over. There would be more difficult conversations, more boundaries to set, and more work to do in therapy for both of us. But for the first time in my life, I faced the future without the shadow of family toxicity. Derek's slap was meant to silence a child, but instead, it gave a voice to generations of suppressed truths. In trying to make Lily feel small, he had inadvertently helped me discover just how strong I could be. As mothers, we can't always prevent our children from experiencing pain, but we can show them how to respond with dignity and courage. We can show them that true strength isn't about controlling others but about standing firm in our own truth, even when we stand alone. My brother slapped my daughter for being too loud. My parents laughed. And in that awful moment, they taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. Some family ties need to be cut for healing to begin, while others can be rewoven into something stronger and more beautiful than before. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and protecting someone vulnerable? What would you have done? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember that you deserve to be heard, to take up space, and to use your voice without shame, just like Lily finally learned to do. Thanks for listening to our journey.